Welcome back. In part one, we identified this third horseman as our corrupt justice system and also talked about how these deal with phases. So, this first one would be the beginning of birth pains that Matthew talks about as the first phase, the first 1,260 days of the Virgin in Revelation 12. And then what we did talk about, I mentioned that the second horseman and third horseman represent the tribulation. So the second half of the woman's week. So her time is coming to an end where she's getting delivered out. So she has 1,260 days of being protected by these two witnesses. And I believe the tribulation time is over, this time period. And so at the same time, there was 42 months that the beast begins, the time of the beast, and that we talked that these scales should represent our justice system, but that there is intervention so that their time is coming to an end. So now there is a transition time where we're entering this army of the undead is going to arise up out of the sea. This is what to expect next. So this is what I want to go into next. And so what we see, since we now identify this fourth horseman as the Great Tribulation, we can pair this and go to Revelation chapter 17 that talks about the harlot and the destruction of the harlot. So it's important to identify these players. The first half of the week of this beast being a defeat for the false justice system. And so there is a takeover where there's going to be a time of plenty instead coming up. So it's like those that were choking you, this false justice system, being defeated, and then there's being spoils all over the place that people are able to like loot, because this compares back to the time of Kings, Second Kings, where there's just this amazing army coming in and this quick defeat. So it's pointing us back to this time of even more plenty than this, where the two lepers are able to go out and just loot everything, but also because there's such plenty. And so who has been telling us that there's going to be a time of like this golden age of America and working with drone expert? So here let's identify that these 10 horns. And when we identify the 11th horn, when we see this story play out, we want to identify who the beast is, who the dragon is. So there's actually the dragon, who has the same, very similar appearance, is more like the spiritual component. There's a dragon and there's a beast. So I want to identify all this that is going on. And also, first I need to point out a clarity. The 10 horns and the beast? No. Look at the King James, the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast. So first we want to point out that these 10 horns have not had an alliance with the beast. They have not joined with the beast. They only joined with the beast for 1 hour. So you can see that there's a replacement going on here in the justice system. So the first justice system, they are defeating, like all of this was like one unit, like a holy trinity. They're on the harlot, so that's like the virgin and the son, and then the dragon is like the father. So we have the dragon, the beast, the harlot that sits on it, and both of the dragon and the beast have 10 horns and 7 heads. So the son, like the beast, is an exact representation of the dragon. So it's important to note that these 10 horns, which represent leaders, have not yet joined with the beast. So there's like a replacement going on, a transition of authority. So I'm reiterating that these 10 horns have not yet joined with the beast. But we do know that the current justice system, that there is a lot of speculation that seems plausible that they have joined with the beast. And the beast, I'm going to show you, is not human. So let me pull that scripture up. Well, so we're working on identifying the players and also how the story unfolds. So first, let's go look at the dragon, which is in Revelation chapter 12. This is the description of the dragon. It's a huge red dragon with 7 heads, 10 horns, and 7 royal crowns on his head. So an initial thing that we see that's different is the crowns are on the heads. And when we go back a chapter to the description of the beast, we're going actually go forward to Revelation 13. We're going to see that there are 10 royal crowns. So the crowns are on the horns of the beast. The beast is not the dragon. So the dragon is going to represent the father authority. So this is phase 1 here, the beginning of sorrows in Revelation chapter 12. It kind of unwinds us to back how the story all began when it gets up to this pivotal point in like the midst of the week here, at least the week of the beast. It's going to go into more detail of these different components. So the dragon is defeated, right? So this is why it's important to know that the 10 horns, up until the middle of the week of the beast, are not aligned with the beast, the dragon, so that there are spirits that come out of the dragon and out of the beast to call the kings to possess them. So what's happening is this Antichrist figure, I'll try to go into more detail to explain how we come up to this, is making war. They get the victory over the enemy, but then they end up joining with the enemy. So in other words, what's happening is this Antichrist figure, this 11th horn, is looking a lot like Christ and gets worshipped by the world because it's like Nebuchadnezzar. He conquers the world. He allows you to worship like whatever Nebuchadnezzar did. He's the type of this Antichrist. So he even claims that the King of the Jews is the one true king. But then he gets to this point where he gives the credit to himself and says that I am God. So it's this point of possession, this 1 hour where they join when the final bowls are being poured out. So Revelation, let's go with, is 15 or 16. So it'll be the next chapter where in between these final vials or bowls, the spirits of devils. I saw 3 unclean spirits like frogs come out of the mouth of the dragon and out of the mouth of the beast. So we showed how these are 2 different things, and out of the mouth of the false prophet. So these are possessed, for they are spirits of devils working miracles which go forth unto the kings of the earth. So in context of Revelation, there are 10 kings because there are 10 horns, and of the whole world. So we can also see that there might be like this micro part where like the harlot is Jerusalem and the virgin is also Jerusalem, because that's how the Old Testament talks about it. But now we've also expanded to Christianity, to the Gentiles, to the nations. And so it's actually also those who are mirroring this type, which is all of humanity is what this is covering, I believe. So on a micro scale, this can be talking about earthly Jerusalem and heavenly Jerusalem. So there's 2 chapters that deal with the harlot, and so there's the feet of first the heavenly Jerusalem type, which I believe happened back at the beginning of Sorrows, where first Messiah's sword is bathed in the blood of the heavens, and then it comes down on Edom, on Christianity, like all the nations. So it's like the picture of Judas is a picture of the Antichrist, where he could have started off with good intentions, but at some point, like his pride gets the best of him. So taking after the dragon, whose pride gets the best of him, thinking he can be God, thinking he knows better and how things need to be done, like give your money to the poor. So it seems like good intentions, but where it says Satan has put it in your heart to do this. So at some point, this victor that has helped defeat the harlot, the false justice system of the whole world, that he also actually in his pride gets possessed, that Satan puts it in his heart. It's important to also know that there's these 2 defeats, there's multiple battles. So just like there is like a heavenly kind of version, the father, the dragon, and then a more earthly animalistic version, and finally the human mouthpiece, and these joined together. With the harlot, there's a heavenly version, so this is Revelation chapter 17, and so this defeat, this battle, I believe already happened. So with 2017, the sign of the Virgin that happened, it says like immediately, this is when the clock starts ticking, that she begins her wilderness journey, and this battle goes on in the heavens. So it's Michael and his angels fight, and they get the victory, and the dragon is cast out. So it's a defeat of the harlot, this harlot, the heavenly harlot, the Jerusalem, and I believe this is Nibiru, planet X, which has supposed to have like 7 main moons, and then like 10 lesser moons, and the crowns being on the heads, meaning that it's on like this Anunnaki type setup. So this is like the spiritual version that's behind the sins on the earth, the angels that come down and influence earth to do all these sins, teach them these terrible mysteries of like fornication and warfare. So what happens though is that these horns, which can represent like the 10 tribes that are taken to this planet for protection, to multiply so they're not lost, that they work together to help defeat this heavenly version, this Jerusalem that is like where the throne of God is. So the devil wants to seat himself here on this throne, but what happens is that he is cast down. So it's a defeat for the dragon and for Jerusalem, this heavenly harlot, that they get cast down to the earth, and then the devil is arriving with his angels on earth, knowing that he has a short time. So now this battle is taken down to the earth so he can have this next defeat. So that means that these 10 horns, since they defeat the harlot, have actually, like, they're fighting alongside Michael and his angels. So they appear to be the good guys, and should also note that, like, again, amid Jerusalem, there is the virgin and the harlot. So amid the 10 tribes, which is like Ephraim, which is Christianity as well, who join themselves to these 10 tribes, that there is a virgin as well. So I'm not saying that they're all like this harlot. So that is the heavenly version. And so then it comes down here to Revelation 18, which represents the earthly fall, which is centered on, like, the hot spot should be Jerusalem surrounded by armies, but also worldwide. And so, like, the first defeat is Jerusalem, And the merchants survive. There's nations that survive because this attack is not on like worldwide yet. So there could be a time of prosperity amid the Great Tribulation, but you have to take the mark of the beast to be able to buy or sell. But then at the end of the Great Tribulation is how I understand that the Lamb has finished his wedding feast, and I think there's 3.5 more years in there, so there's 7 years of burning weapons. The Lamb comes with, after having this feast with his bride and the marriage has happened, they all come out and then defeat all the nations and take over to have this 1,000 years of peace, of the reign of Messiah. So some other notes to bring out is that the beast is not exactly human because he's given a mouthpiece. So I believe the mouthpiece then is the false prophet, and the false prophet would be the Antichrist or the 11th horn. So I think the beast is more like a system. It comes up out of the sea, whereas the false prophet has to do with the land. So where the aliens, the grays, the UFOs, they come from the ocean, and so taking us back to the fallen angels that got locked up in the earth, according to Enoch, for 70 generations. Now they've kind of come out to tempt the world a bit, but it's just a test to see where we stand in our faith, if we will remain true amidst persecution, because God actually takes care of his own to not fear anything once they've destroyed the body. There's nothing more they can do to you because you are not your body, you are an eternal soul. So I'll show you where the beast is given a mouth. So it wouldn't be able to communicate to humans. It's kind of how I take this. So the ones that the mouth that speaks arrogant and blasphemous words, you can see there's so many components to this beast with 7 heads. It's like a amalgamation of the 3 beasts before it. So all these empires, these kingdoms, it's like this whole world now represented, and then taking after the father, the dragon, where they're all joining together, but then giving a specific mouth, I think represents a specific person, which then it goes into the prophet, which is encouraging you to worship these entities, which I think might be more non-human, but then it could also represent all those that join with it, take the mark, because they're all punished together. Those who take the mark are put in this place that's not called Hades. It is Gehenna, where you can look down and see them burning for the 1,000 years of peace and then being released for the final judgment before we enter the world to come. So let's review. When we look at Matthew 24, it lays out these time periods pretty clearly for us. So the first 3.5 years, the first half of the week of the woman before the week of the beast even begins. That takes us back to Revelation chapter 12. There is a battle in the heavens. So this is a distant war. It's a rumor of wars. It's not actually happening here on earth. We can feel like something's going on. There's a shift ever since 2017. So there's like these birth pains that we feel, but the event is not actually happening on earth. This is where the 10 horns, the 10 kings, are defeating the harlot. And so at the same time that this harlot, because it says the place of the dragon is not found anymore in Revelation chapter 12, so it's hurled, and I believe that place is Jerusalem, where he sets up his throne saying he's God, and it's being hurled like a mountain to fall into the sea of earth. So this will arrive and crash into earth like the middle, this middle period. So we're in this transition period now of the week of the beast, I believe, the switching over of power. So during this heavenly battle, the 10 horns, working with Michael and his angels, handing over this heavenly harlot, this heavenly Jerusalem, and also the dragon being defeated. So the horns do not join with the beast until this final hour, which is a transitional period in between the tribulation and the Great Tribulation times. So then it says, and then the end will come. So this would be talking about the tribulation is like the two witnesses, and also the trampling of the outer courts, the love of many growing cold. And then it's taking you to the time of this transition period, which will enter into the Great Tribulation period. And then it says, after the tribulation of those days. So also this is the transition period. So the tribulation of those days being these verses 9 to 14. And this is all talking about the mid-transition period. So this 11th horn is what I'm saying, like these kings, they helped with the heavenly battle, and now what we're going on is that there is this earthly battle which takes place before they declare battle against the Lamb, the Messiah. So then there's also this final battle where the Lamb will defeat them, and I believe that happens after the Great Tribulation, because these nations survive after the defeat of the harlot. And then there will be this third final big battle, which shouldn't take long. But even then, some nations do survive that weren't part of the army to take place in the reign of Messiah for 1,000 years. So now let's see if we can understand what is happening now with New Jersey drones. It's said that these drones, that there are drones coming up out of the ocean, but there's also a variety of drones. Some are loud, that appear man-made, with landing craft that look according to how we would make things, even though it's more advanced than what our current government says they're able to handle. So first is it's our current justice system, and we learned that their time ends at the end of the tribulation, that there is now a transition of power, and that these 10 horns that helped defeat the dragon in the heavenly battle, but maybe not specifically the dragon, specifically the harlot, and then specifically Michael and his angels defeating the dragon in this battle. So the dragon comes to Earth defeated, and he needs to open up the abyss to have this army of the undead now appear, so that he can try to wage war with the earth to deceive the elect. So this is a time of psychological warfare where you are trying to be deceived. And then to also note, though, that when these 10 horns, specifically now this little horn, has a rise to power in the midst of the week, that they will appear very much like Messiah, that they will be worshipped, and they will be like a type of Nebuchadnezzar ruling the world, appearing to allow you to worship your God. But then we know during that time also that they, like what followed was Daniel in the lion's den. I guess that'd be part of the beast, like Persia and them all. So it appears like a good choice where the world is deceived, but actually your victors are going to turn around and take the credit for themselves, and then during this Great Tribulation period, have a change of heart of being possessed and decide that they want to make war with Messiah. They want to keep this power to themselves. Messiah is the only one who isn't worried about who's the greatest. He is the one that's able to turn all this power back over to God. So just like this temporary thing to help get the world reunited back to God, that is his goal, and so this is our goal, to reunite the world to God, not to claim power for ourselves. But this Antichrist takes this heart of Satan to want to say that he is God and he's not going to turn over this power, even though it's just he's just the weapon in the hand of God. So I believe our current justice system is too out of control, meaning they don't have any control. They've lost control. So this little horn is actually two horns, two leaders, and they appear to be just like the lamb. In fact, I think they will have you worship Jesus Christ, which will be this image that they're able to make come to life, and they'll say it has the DNA of Messiah and is Messiah, and they're going to force this belief on the whole world, but it's not going to be Jesus, it's not going to be Yahushua. So he's going to speak arrogantly, though, even though he appears to be like Messiah. So we should be able to tell the difference. And to anything that is exalted by man is an abomination to God. So that's what this harlot represents, is idolatry. So to lift up any person is idolatry, is an abomination to God. That's what people were doing in the time of Jesus, Yahushua. They were worshiping their leaders. So anything that is exalted by man is this abomination, is this idolatry. So you know better not to glorify these supposed victors. They're just a weapon in the hand of God, and when God is done, he is going to dispose of warfare. He wants this time of peace. These weapons will be burned. The beast has already been defeated before. We know the prophecy is that Messiah will crush the head of the serpent. But what happens with this falling star, the devil, Satan, I believe he opens up this abyss. And so what we have is this army of the undead that he's opening up Tartarus, which is different than Hades and Gehenna, a space specifically where these angelic powers had been locked up, and allow them to have this time of authority over the earth. So death, one that's been defeated, and all of Sheol, the realm of the dead, also that saints will be resurrected as well. I believe it corresponds with the resurrection of these two witnesses, that all the graves are open. So everybody all at once able to see the one that has been pierced, but have this choice. So now the choice is presented to you. Do not worship flesh. So even with your perception of who Messiah is, that he is no longer this body of flesh, that we regard him this way no longer. So a caution that if somebody, the Messiah, appears to you in this fleshly body, that this could be the image that they have resurrected. So he is more this spiritual form, that we will see him as he is, and we will be like him. We'll take on this eternal form. It could have like our fleshly body transformed, to have this eternal form, is what I'm saying. It's not the flesh that leads to corruption, this body of sin that is being done away with, so that you do not be deceived. So the choice is presented to you, not to worship a human, not to exalt anyone, that even Messiah's role is to reunite us with the Father, and even him will be subservient to him. So to not go seeking after as if you're missing something, that God dwells in all of us, that we don't need to go seeking something. We can communicate with God directly, and we have all that we need because we have God. We have Yud Hey, Wow Hey.